First and foremost, Jesus, honor and glorification to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Hamashiach, Malak, Yahweh Shah. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, who the world calls God, and Yahweh Shah is the name of his beloved Son, who the world calls Jesus Christ, whom is the Savior of the name Brother Malachi out of the WFI Detroit camp, coming at you with another cold cut and transit, going into the end times, and what is going to happen within the end times. So we're going to start off with 2nd Esdras chapter 7, verse 26. Because we are living in the last days according to the Bible. The Most High showing forth the signs and the tokens within these last days. All right, so let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse 26. This book of 2nd Esdras chapter 7 and verse 26. And it reads thus. Right, bear with me. It reads thus. It say, behold, the time shall come that these tokens which I have told thee shall come to pass. Right, and the tokens represents the signs and the prophecies that are going to come to pass on the earth. Reading on. And the bride shall appear, and she coming forth shall be seen that was now withdrawn from the earth. And the bride represents the elect of Israel. Let's get that in Revelation chapter 19 and verse 7. Right, that's going into the 144,000 and also the 1/3 that was preordained through the foundation of the world to receive salvation. It's the book of Revelation chapter 19 and verse 7. It reads thus. Let us be glad and rejoice and give honor to him, meaning give honor to Yahweh Shah. For the marriage of the Lamb is come, and his wife have made herself ready. Now the Lamb represents Hamashiach Yahweh Shah. Let's get that in 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. Right, so the marriage and the joining together of Hamashiach Yahweh Shah and the elect is shortly to come on the earth. Let's get 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. And this is why we have to make our enduring in these last days, coming back to being one with Yahweh Yahweh Shah. This is 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 19. It say, but with the precious blood of Hamashiach, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Right, so Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, he's that ultimate sacrifice, being that lamb. Right, let's also get John chapter 1 and verse 29. All right. This book of John chapter 1 and verse 29. And again, Hamashiach Yahweh Shah died for the nation of Israel for the remission of sins. And that's spoken about in Acts chapter 5, verse 29, and also Luke chapter 1, verse 77. Because in the ancient world, we had to offer up lambs and bullocks upon the altar, as it states in Hebrews, the 9th chapter. But Yahweh Shah, he's that ultimate sacrifice because he's without fault and without blemish, as it states in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15. Meaning Yahweh Shah never committed sin on the earth. So this is John chapter 1 and verse 29. And it reads thus. The next day John seeth Yahweh Shah coming unto him, and saith, behold, the Lamb of God, which taketh away the sin of the world. You see that? So the Lord, he took away the sin of the Israelites. Right? And that world is Israel. Let's get that in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 18 and verse 4. Now we can go to Isaiah chapter 45, verse 17. And also Hebrews chapter 1 and verse 3. But we can also go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 18 and verse 4, proving that the world is the children of Israel. Right? That world is not talking about the whole earth and the universe and every person that consists therein, including the white man and the Chinese. No, the world is only talking about the Israelites. This is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 18 verse 4. For they were worthy to be deprived of light. In that day, in this context, I'm talking about the Egyptians. Imprisoned in darkness, who kept thy son shut up, by whom the uncorrupt light of the law was to be given unto the world. So the scriptures say the light of the law was given to the world. And we understand that the law, statutes, and commandments was given to the Israelites. Let's get the classic. Let's get Psalm chapter 147 in verse 19. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 147 and verse 19. It reads thus: He sheweth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his commandments unto the Israelites. He have not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord. So that's playing upon tables. The Lord gave the law, statutes, and commandments to the Israelites, right, upon Mount Sinai, when you read Malachi chapter 4 and verse 4, right? And he gave the tables of stone to Moses, right, on a physical level, but Moses was set up to teach the children of Israel about the laws of the Lord. Let's get that in Sirach chapter 45, verse 17. It's the book of Sirach chapter 45, verse 17. It reads thus: He gave unto him his commandments and authority and his statutes of judgments, that he should teach Jacob the testimony and inform Israel in his laws. So again, Moses was set up, being that priest of the tribe of Levi, according to Exodus chapter 2, verse 1. He was set up to teach the children of Israel about the laws of the Lord. So again, in John chapter 1, verse 29, that lamb that taketh away the sin of the world, that's talking about the Israelites, right? So going back to 2nd Esdras chapter 7, verse, going into the end times, because those are the times we're living in. And through the Spirit, the Lord showed Moses the end times. But we're going to get that. But let's read 2nd Esdras 7:26 again. Behold, the time shall come that these tokens which I have told thee shall come to pass, and the bride shall appear. And again, the bride represents the Israelites, the elect, according to Revelation chapter 19, verse 7. And she coming forth shall be seen that now is withdrawn from the earth. So now the elect is being seen, meaning we're being sealed within these last days. And that's also according to Revelation, the 7th chapter, right? But the destruction on a massive level is not going to fully come until the elect get sealed, right? That's why you have these death angels holding back the winds, as it states in Revelation, the 7th chapter, and the wind represents the destruction. So until the elect is completely sealed, right, the destruction is not going to happen on the earth at a massive level. Now, you got things taking place. You got fires going on. You got World War III brewing up. You got racial tension. You got people getting put to death left and right. That's because we're living in the 4th seal. But nonetheless, the massive destruction is not going to take place until the elect is sealed. Let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 14, verse 1. And it came to pass upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of a bush over against me, and said, Esdras, Esdras. And I said, Here am I, Lord. And I stood up upon my feet. Then said he unto me, unto me, in the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talk with him when my people served in Egypt. Right, so the Lord, Yahweh Shai, he came and talked with Moses in Egypt, right, out of the burning bush. And I sent him and led my people out of Egypt, and brought him up to the Mount of Sinai, where I held him by me a long season, and told him many wondrous things, and shewed him the secrets of the times and the end, and commanded him, saying, These words shalt thou declare, and these shalt thou hide. Right, so the Lord showed Moses the end times. Right, Moses seen Jacob's trouble. Right, Moses seen nuclear war on the earth. Moses seen the race wars happening. Moses seen the Israelites getting trodden down and put in slavery, according to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. Let's also get Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 14. Leviticus 26 and 14. Right? It reads thus, But if ye would not hearken unto me, and would not do all these commandments, again, because the Israelites, right, the Lord gave us pretty much an option, whether we're going to keep the commandments and live, or not keep the commandments and be subject to death and the curses and vexation of spirit. Right? And that's spoken about in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26, and also Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 15. Matter of fact, let's just bring it out real quick. Right? This book of Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 26. It reads thus, Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. So the Lord set before the Israelites blessings and curses. And you can read about the blessings in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter as well. starting at the first verse to the 14th verse. So the Lord said, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day. And a curse if you will not obey God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day to go after other gods, which ye have not known. Right? So the Lord said, look, I set before you blessings and curses. And in Deuteronomy 30 and 15, the Lord told us to choose life and good that we may live. So we have to choose to keep these commandments, right, and conduct ourselves as righteous vessels on the earth, being God's chosen people. And that's spoken about in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1. Right? Length of days and long life shall you keeping the commandments add unto you. Right? So this is Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 14. But if you will not hearken unto me and will not do all these commandments, and if ye shall despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so that ye will not do all my commandments, but that ye break my covenant. And that's what we did as the children of Israel. We broke the covenant of the Lord. That's why we're in slavery. That's why we're subject to payments, as it states in Haggai chapter 1, verse 6. This is why the white man is killing us, right? Raping our women, kidnapping our children. This is why these curses are taking place among our nation, because we broke the covenant of the Lord. Reading on. I also will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror, consumption, and the burning ague that shall consume the eyes, and cause sorrow of heart. And ye shall sow your seed in vain, for your enemies shall eat it. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursueth. You see that? So those that hate us, chiefly the so-called white man, now he's reigning over us. As the scriptures say in Deuteronomy 28 and 43. Let me bring that out. And also Deuteronomy 28 and 22. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 43. The stranger that is within thee shall get above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. So that stranger, being the so-called white man, he got above us very high. Right? This is why he's able to come in our communities and set up banks, businesses, 500 fortune companies, and oppress our people. And we don't receive none of the benefits therein. Right? So the point is, the Lord cursed us and appointed over us terror and ague. Right? And these are the things that the Lord showed Moses. The Lord showed Moses the end times. Right? So let's get Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 33. And shalom, shalom to all the mighty men and women tuning in. Right? Most High willing brothers and sisters are enduring, keeping these commandments, having faith in these last days, and enduring to the end. Right? So let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 9 and verse 1. This book is 2nd Esdras chapter 9 and verse 1. And it reads thus. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Right? And the highest is another title for Yahweh Shem Yahushua. He's about to visit the world in which he created. Right? Because the Lord created everything. That's spoken about in Genesis, the 1st chapter. Right? And Hamashiach Yahushua, he's the firstborn of the Lord's creation, as it states in Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. So reading on, it say, verse 13, Salaki verse 3. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, and that's what we starting to see. We're seeing earthquakes, right? Scriptures say there'll be earthquakes in diverse places. Let's get that in Matthew chapter 24. Right, so you got 8.0 magnitude earthquakes. You got 6.1. Right, Haiti always getting jacked up with earthquakes. Puerto Rico, earthquakes that occur in the western part of America. You know, in that western region, whether it's California, Washington, right, Phoenix, so on and so forth. So earthquakes are happening in diverse places. And why are these things occurring? Because we're living in end. Let's get Matthew chapter 24 in verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. And that's another thing we're hearing of wars, right? World War III, right? Race wars, right? World War III is brewing up, man. Right through the spirit, Russia may invade Ukraine, right? And then America is going to kind of get up in there. And guess what? We're at World War III. There's no turning back the hand. There's no saying, okay, we don't want to go to war. Let's have peace. And even when they do say peace and safety, the Lord said, then sudden destruction shall come upon them. That's spoken about in 1 Thessalonians, the 5th chapter. Right? But reading on, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilence and earthquakes in diverse places. Right? So you got earthquakes happening all over the world. Right? You got these nations bugging out. Scriptures say, why do the heathen rage? You got Moab over there making artificial suns, kind of launching it in the sky and try to portray themselves to be Yahweh Shem Yahushua, when they're just mortal men, creatures on the earth made from dust and ashes. Right? But this is the pride of man. Right? And they got that same spirit that they had in Genesis the 11th chapter, going back to the Tower of Babel. Right? Right, reading on. It say, verse 4, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. Right? So the Lord spake of these things from the beginning. Right? The Lord deals with predestination, preordaining. Right? That's spoken about in Isaiah chapter 46, verse 10. So the Lord declared the end from the beginning. Right? Before the Lord created the world, he knew how it would end. This is Isaiah chapter 46 and verse 10. It reads thus, declaring the end from the beginning and from the ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand and I will do all my pleasure. Right? So this is pleasurable to the Lord, to bring down the so-called white man and his wicked inventions. Right? Because the white man conspired against the Israelites by way of putting us in slavery, right? Putting crack in our community, putting guns in our community, right? Putting abortion clinics all throughout our community, setting up churches in eminent and high places, right? So that's crafty counsel that the white man took against the Israelites. So the Lord is going to destroy him for his wicked inventions, right? And that's pleasurable to the Lord for him to destroy the wicked, right? Let's get Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10 and verse 5. Right? Because the Lord deals with what? Equity. A just balance, as it states in Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 1. What goes around comes around, as it states in Galatians chapter 6 verse 7. The Lord said you reap what you sow. Colossians 3:25, Galatians 5 and 10, 2nd Esdras 5:42, so on and so forth. So let's get Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 and verse 5. It reads thus, moreover the nations in their wicked conspiracy being confounded, she found out the righteous and preserved him blameless unto God, and kept him strong against his tender compassion toward his son. Right? So the nations, right, and not only Esau, but Moab, Ammon, Elam, Ishmael, all these different nations conspire against the Israelites, as it states in Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Right? But again, the Lord is going to confound the wicked. Let's also get Esther chapter 16, verse 23. And the Lord is going to confound them by what? Nuclear warfare, as it states in Psalms chapter 21, verse 10, 2nd Esdras 16:13, famines, pestilence, right? So-called natural disasters, whether it's tsunamis, earthquakes, strange winds, rains, torments. These are the things that the Lord has set up for the nations, so that they may fall thereby. So this is Esther chapter 16 and verse 23, that both now and hereafter there may be safety to us and the well-affected Persians, but to those which do conspire against us a memorial of destruction. right? So those that conspire against the Israelites, they're going to receive a memorial of destruction, right? And that's the so-called white man, because after 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and rigorous labor in the kingdom of heaven, he's going to be eradicated and obliterated off the earth. That's spoken about in Obadiah 18 to the 21st verse. Reading on. Verse 24, therefore every city and country whatsoever which shall not do, which shall not do according to these things, shall be destroyed without mercy with fire and sword, and shall be made not only unpassable for men, but also most hateful to wild beasts and fowls forever. Right? And that's the lot of the wicked. Right? The wicked is not going to go underground in some underworld where they go to burn forever, and the Lord is burning up their spirit by way of the spiritual demon Satan. No, the wicked, they're going to be turned into captivity, right? And that's hell, being at a lower state. And that's spoken about in Psalms chapter 9, verse 17. Let me bring that out. Right? And we know hell is not a physical place where you go to burn forever, with Satan down there torturing your spirit and demons making all kind of crazy noises. We know that's not what it's talking about, because what? Jonah said he was in the belly of hell, right? In Jonah chapter 2, verse 1. But we know through the precepts in the scriptures that Jonah was actually in the belly of a fish, but nonetheless he called it hell, because hell represents a lower state and a low condition on the earth. So this is Psalm chapter 9, verse 17. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So the nations are going to be turned into a lower state, and that lower state is captivity, right? So let's go back to 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. And these are the things that we got to prepare for, right? You should be reading these precepts, meditating on the word of the Lord, and understanding what the Most High is about to do on the earth and the judgments that he has set up for the wicked and also for the Israelites, right? This is 2nd Ezra chapter 9 and verse 5 again. For like as all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works, and endings and effects and signs, right? So the beginning of the Lord's creation, it was wonders, powerful works. Let's get that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, right? Because the creations of the Lord are wonderful. The fact that everything that you see around you was put together off the word of the Lord alone is beautiful, right? It's unfathomable, right? You can't really grasp the wonders and the divine nature of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, right? You see the trees, you see the cattle, you see the fishes of the sea, right? You see all the host of heaven, the stars, the moon, the sun. You see all these beautiful creations of the Lord, right? So that's wonders and signs. So this is Genesis chapter 1 and verse 26. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So that's playing upon tables. Man was given dominion over the creatures that the Lord created, right? Chiefly the Israelite man. Because as it states in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, the whole world was created for the sake of Israel, right? So the nations, right, the animals, the cattle, everything was made for Israel, all right? Got another precept. All right, bear with me. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 6, verse 1. And he said unto me, in the beginning, when the earth was made, before the borders of the world stood, or ever the winds blew, before it thundered and lightened, or ever the foundation of paradise were laid, before the fair flowers were seen. So you got beautiful flowers out here, right? You got the lily flower, right? Which is the Most High's favorite flower, might I add, right? It say, or ever the movable powers were established, before the innumerable multitude of angels were gathered together, or ever the heights of the air were lifted up, before the measures of the firmament were named, or ever the chimneys in Zion or hot, and the present years were sought out, and or ever the events of them that now sin were turned, before they were sealed, that have gathered faith for a treasure. So again, those that have gathered faith for a treasure are the elect, right? So again, these are all the beautiful creations of the Lord. All right, bear with me. It's the second Esdras chapter 9 and verse 6 again. Even so, the times also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works, and endings and effects and signs. And everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed, shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land and within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. See that? So that's playing upon tables. The Lord has said those, so like the Lord said those who will be saved are those that keep the works and the faith. And let's get 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse, really the whole 16th chapter. 2nd Esdras, the 16th chapter. Really the whole chapter is mighty through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shah, right? And if you want to know more about the end times, hey, read the whole book of 2nd Esdras. It goes in depth, in detail about the things that's going to take place on this earth, right? Shalom, shalom, brother. So this is 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and verse, matter of fact, let's get 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter. All right, touch on this point. This book of 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 18. And it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them, meaning judgment day. All right, reading on. Right, so like you bear with me. And will begin to make inquisition of them. Right, so like you lost my. Verse 18 again. And it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness. And when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, and our affliction is being fulfilled, man. Right? We already done went through hell and captivity and castration and getting lynched and buck breaking. We caught our hell, right? But now it's time for the nations to catch their hell, right? It's even Steven. Let's get that in Obadiah 15. Right? Bear with me. So again, the affliction of Zion, meaning the affliction and curses of the Israelites, are being fulfilled. Right now, the cup is passing over to the heathen. Let's get Obadiah. And they got to drink of that cup, as it states in Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. Right? They can't say, oh, no, I don't want that cup. I already had my drink. No. Right? You didn't have your judgment yet. But guess what? Your judgment is coming on the earth swiftly. Right? Let's get Obadiah. And Salakia, this is not something that you Israelites should turn your nose up at and say, well, God loves everybody. What about love? What about forgiveness? Hey, the Lord said he's not going to forgive them for what they did to his chosen. That's in Isaiah chapter 27 and verse 11 and Isaiah chapter 2. Right? So let's get Obadiah chapter 1 verse 15. It reads thus, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. Right? So they're going to lose their power on the earth. They're going to lose their rulership. They're going to lose their wealth, their cattle, their warships, their weaponry, their gold, their silver, They're going to lose everything on the earth because they have to drink it at a cup in which the Israelites drunk of, which is slavery and captivity. So this is Revelation chapter 14 and verse 9. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yahweh, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. Right? And that fire and brimstone is going to come about by way of nuclear fire. Just as Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed with fire and brimstone, so shall modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, which is America, be destroyed likewise. So this is Genesis chapter 19, verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the city and that which grew upon the ground. Right? But his wife looked back from him, and she became a pillar of salt. Right? So the point is, the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's going to destroy America in the same fashion by way of nuclear missiles. Let's also go to Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 40. So again, these are the things that's going to take place at the end. War, earthquakes, famines, so on and so forth. This is Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 40. For I lift up my hand to heaven and say, I live forever. If I whet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and will reward them that hate me. And who hate the Lord? The nations. Let's get that in Genesis chapter 12 and verse 3. Because those that curse the Israelites, they're going to be cursed. Right, the king of Moab hired Balaam to curse the Israelites. Right, and those curses was pretty much reverted back onto Balaam and the Moabites. Right, so those that conspire and try to curse the Israelites, those curses are going to turn back on them. So this is Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. Now the Lord has said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will shew thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So the Lord said he's going to curse those that curse the Israelites. Right? Because it's damn sure not no nations blessing Israel. Right? Everybody got us in slavery. Let's get that in Luke chapter 21, verse 24. What nation on the earth is blessing Israel right now? Trying to give us restitution, fighting on the behalf of our oppression, restoring back us our gold, wealth, silver, giving us our nationality back. None of these nations are doing that. This is Luke chapter 21 and verse 24. It reads thus, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Right? So Jerusalem, right, which is our physical land, is being trodden down of the Gentiles. You got heathens all throughout our land defiling it. Right? They got something in Israel, or city in Israel called Pink City, right, where the homosexuals dwell. Right? And you also have the heathen, right, on a spiritual level, they trodden down the Israelites, man. Right? They stripped us of our nationality, right? Gave us religion, gave us science, gave us African American, gave us Negro, gave us nigger, right? And on the physical level, they trodden down the Israelites by way of killing us, murdering us, right? Shooting us down, and we've received no justice or peace, right? So this is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 41. If I whet my glittering sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will render vengeance to my enemies and will reward them that hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh, and that with the blood of the slain and of the captives from the beginning of revenges upon the enemy, right? Playing upon tables, right? And that glittering sword is going into nuclear missiles. And the Lord is going to make those nuclear missiles drunk with blood, the blood of the so-called white man and the other nations, right? And also 2/3 of our people that don't want to hearken and repent, as it states in Zechariah 13:8. So going back to 2nd Esdras 6, let's go to verse 20. And when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I shew these tokens. The book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see all together. Right? And that's pretty much going into us receiving a new covenant and having an understanding of the Lord, eating of that hidden manna, right, in the kingdom of heaven. Right? That's in Hebrews chapter 8, verse 8. And also Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 33. Verse 21. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The woman with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months, and they shall live and be raised up. Meaning we're going to be on a high spiritual level in the kingdom of heaven, right? Our children are going to be 1 year old, speaking clear as day, eloquent, right? Our children are going to give birth early, but the babies are going to be still healthy and grow up to be strong. Verse 22, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Now that's going into Jacob's trouble, right? That's going into famines on the earth. That's going into a lack of food and water. And that's already happening now on the low level, right? You can go within any grocery store, whether it's Kroger, Safeway, Myers, and you're going to find out that the products are lacking, right? You go to certain aisles, it's kind of wiped out, it's cleared out, it's nothing there, right? Or you go to certain aisles, they say, look, 1 item only or 2 items only, right? We're in low demand, right? So all these things are pointing toward the famine that's going to happen here in America, right? Already in China, they having commercials saying, look, feed America, right? America is poor. Feed America is going through a famine. But guess what? The Lord is going to intensify this famine. And there's going to be no food out here in which people may eat and consume. And that's when people are going to resort to cannibalism, as it states in 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 58, right? Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. Because you had even the Israelites in 70 AD, right? When the Romans, during the Roman-Jewish wars, when the Romans conquered and took over the land of Israel, they starved us out, right? They set up a wall. They set up a wall that we may not go in and out of Jerusalem. And they pretty much starved out the Israelites, right? Led by Titus Vespasian, that filthy devil, right? But nonetheless, these famines happen throughout history. And again, the Lord said that which have been is now, right? In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1 and verse 9. So if these things happen in the days of old, they're going to happen in today's times as well, right? A famine happened in Samaria in 2 Kings, the 6th chapter. Let's bring that out. And I pretty much always bring out this account. Hey, but you can never bring it out enough because we blowing the trumpet and warning the people. This is 2nd Esdras chapter, so like it's 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 24. All right, bear with me. 2nd Esdras, wait, I keep saying 2nd Esdras. 2 Kings chapter 6 and verse 24. And it came to pass after this that Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, gathered all his hosts and went up and besieged Samaria. And there was a great famine in Samaria. And behold, they besieged it until an ass head was sold for 80 pieces of silver, right? Which is 80 pieces of silver, which is worth a lot of money in the ancient world. And that's an ass head. And the 4th part of a cab of dove's dung for 5 pieces of silver. So this is hyperinflation in the scriptures. And as the king of Israel was passing by upon the wall, there cried a woman unto him, saying, help, my lord, O king. And he said, if the Lord do not help thee, whence shall I help thee? Out of the barn floor or out of the winepress? And the king said unto her, what alieth thee? And she answered, This woman said unto me, Give thy son, that we may eat him today, and we will eat my son tomorrow. So these women were having conversations about eating their own children, right? That cometh betwixt a matrix. Reading on. So we boiled my son and did eat him, and said unto her on the next day, Give thy son, that we may eat him. And she hath hid her son. And it came to pass, when the king heard the words of the woman, that he rent his clothes, and he passed by upon the wall, and the people looked, and behold, he had sackcloth within upon his flesh. You see that? So in Samaria, when it was a famine, you had women eating their children, right? So cannibalism is coming back on the earth, man. Right? A cannibalism is already here. Over there in the land of Ham, they always eating each other, man. Right? You had an Edomite in Philadelphia that got stuck on the elevator for 3 days with his wife, and he ate her. See that? So famines are here and happening, but the Lord is going to make it more noticeable and evident in these last days. So this is 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 22 again. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty, right? So again, these storehouses are being found empty. Now it's going to come a time where you're going to go up in the store and it's nothing going to be there. It's going to just be a store, right? It's going to have racks and shelves with nothing on it. Verse 23, and a trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. So the scriptures say the friends shall fight one against another like enemies. That's race wars, civil wars, and all hell breaking loose. They show you in a lot of these apocalyptic movies, Twilight Zone, right? Every time when the storehouses are found empty, or when it's a famine happening in these apocalyptic movies, you got people fighting each other, killing each other over tuna, a can of beans, right? It showed you that in that movie War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise, right? They was trying to damn kill him to take his car, man. Right? So all hell is going to be breaking loose in these last days. And this is why we got to get our spirit right and be right with Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah, so we can be protected from these things. As it states in Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 5. And Shalom, Shalom, mighty men and women. This is Zechariah chapter 14, verse 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. See that? So that's race wars, civil wars, people fighting, all hell breaking loose, people getting put to death, famines, war, martial law. All these things are going to take place, right? Verse 25, whoso remaineth from all these that I have told thee shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. Now notice it say the end of your world. What world is it going to be the end of? Let's get 2nd Esdras 6 and 8. And he said unto him, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob were born of him. So like when Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. So Esau, he's the end of this world, right? This is a so-called white man's world, right? You look on the back of your dollar bill, you see a white man smirking at you. I got you. You see a white man smirking at you, right? You go into any bank that's owned by the so-called white man. I don't know any banks that's owned by Ham. I don't know any banks that's owned by Ishmael, right? Not in America, right? Most banks are owned by the so-called white man, right? So everything is his right now, whether it be land, whether it be the medical institution, storehouses, 500 fortune companies, right? Amazon. This is owned by Jeff Bezos, I believe, right? Or is that Walmart? Nonetheless, it's all owned by Esau. So everything is his, and the Lord is going to bring down his world, and Jacob is going to be the next rulers of this planet Earth, right? But before that happens, the Lord has to bring forth the prophecies. Let's get Baruch. Let's get Baruch 2:25. Baruch chapter 2, verse 25. Book of Baruch chapter 2, verse 25. And lo, they are cast out to the heat of the day. Now the heat of the day represents destruction. That's why the Lord said we're not going to be afraid for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. So the heat of the day represents destruction, and the time in which prophecy is kicking off left and right. Let's get that in Psalms 91. This is Psalms chapter 91 and verse 5. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Right, so noonday and being smitten by the sun in the heat of the day represents destruction, and in the time of which prophecy is kicking off left and right. So this is going into Jacob's trouble. And lo, they are cast out to the heat of the day and to the frost of the night, and they die in great miseries by famine, by sword, and by pestilence. See that? So men are going to die in great misery by famine, sword, and pestilence. So this is why we have to make sure our spirit is right in these last days, fear the Most High, and keep these commandments, because this is a fearful thing that's coming on the earth. Okay, if you don't got the Lord, you're going to get caught out there. There's no hope for you. That's why the scriptures say in 2 Edges 5:12, at that time shall men hope, but nothing shall obtain. Because men are going to hope in the Lord. Men are going to pray, try to seek the Lord in that day. But the Most High is not going to hear their prayers, as it states in Proverbs 1:28. Right? In Proverbs 15:29 and John chapter 9, verse 31. So this is 2 Edges chapter 5, verse 12. At the same time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their ways shall not prosper. So men going to try to hope in the Lord, right? They're going to try to pray. They're going to try to damn fast in that day, right? But guess what? The Most High is not going to hear them. As it states in Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 11. Right? All these homosexuals, gay pride, right? Queer awareness, slut walks, right? All these people that engage in that different folly and wickedness, those are the people that's going to get caught out there, right? Jeremiah chapter 11, verse 11. Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them. Right? So people going to be crying to the Lord in that day, begging the Lord to help me out, save me, deliver me. And the Lord is not going to hear them. Right? So let's get Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 21. This book of Jeremiah chapter 18, verse 21. Therefore, deliver up their children to the famine, and pour out their blood by the force of the sword, and let their wives be bereaved of their children and be widows, and let their men be put to death, let their young men be slain by the sword in battle. Let a cry be heard from their houses when thou shalt bring a troop suddenly upon them, for they have digged a pit to take me and hid snares for my feet. Right? Now, that cut, or Salakia, that troop, rather, that the Lord is going to bring upon the people of the earth, chiefly here in America, are those martial law troopers, right? Spoken about in Isaiah chapter 59, verse 19, right? And they're going to kick down your door, break in your house. They're not going to knock nicely. They're not going to, hey, can I come in? How I got to talk? Look, they're not going to do that, man. They're going to kick in your door with that M16 assault rifle, right? Manufactured through Kel-Tec, right? And they're going to be looking for the people of the earth to devour and destroy, man, right? Let's get that in Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19. This book of Isaiah chapter 59 and verse 19. It says, so shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. Right? So the enemy is going to come in like a flood. Right? And when a flood enters your house, hey, it's everywhere. Right? It's in your living room. Right? It's in your basement. Right? It's in your damn attic if the flood go up high enough. Right? So this flood that the Lord is going to bring upon man is going into martial law. Right? And when them troopers storm up in your house, they everywhere, man. Right? They downstairs in the basement. They all throughout the living room. Right? They kind of doing the motions. They gotta, they kind of getting up in the room. They kind of looking. Right? That's how they come up in your house, man. Like damn SWAT, man. They're going to come in that spirit of SWAT. But the scriptures say the enemy, or the Lord rather, he's going to lift up the standard against the enemy, meaning the Lord is going to save us in that day. The Lord is going to keep us protected. We just have to believe and trust that the Lord is going to deliver us and call upon his name in that day, as it states in Psalm chapter 50 and verse 15. So this is 2nd Esdras chapter 16 and verse 70. For there shall, this whole thing, man. Let's start at verse 68. For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision, and in reproach, and trodden under foot. For there shall be in every place, and in the next cities, a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. Now, insurrection, right? Insurrection pretty much is a violent uprising, right? A violent uprising. So it's going to be a violent uprising against those that fear the Lord, meaning the elect. Verse 71, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord. Behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for Yahweh is your God. See that? So the Lord said trouble is coming on the earth, but he's going to deliver us in that trouble. Let's get Psalm chapter 50 and verse 15 to close this out. Book of Psalm chapter 50 and verse 15. And call upon me in the day of trouble, I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. See that? So we have to call upon the Lord in these evil days that we coming into. So again, fear the Most High, keep his commandments, and endure unto the end, Israel. So with that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh Shemi Awashai. Say Shalom.